The small alien transport ship shuddered violently as it slipped through the edge of human space. Lena, the young alien girl, held herself against the shaking walls, her large violet eyes wide with fear. Her body ached from the experiments the alien empire had forced on her. She could feel the bruises, the scars, and the faint sting of her energy burns. The cargo bay around her was littered with broken crates and twisted metal. She clutched the small human baby tightly to her chest. The baby had a thin layer of hair and soft, warm skin. Lena whispered to the child, though she did not know if the baby understood. "I will keep you safe," she said quietly, her voice trembling. Outside, the stars raced past. The ship's engines had been damaged in the last chase. Alien fighters had fired at them, tearing through the hull and killing most of the crew. Lena had been the only one to survive. She had managed to take the baby from a destroyed colony, escaping before the attackers could reach them. The baby had cried for hours, and Lena had held it close, rocking gently, whispering comfort in a language she barely knew. She was scared, but she could not let the fear show. The ship's warning lights blinked red. The hull groaned under the strain. Lena pulled herself up, her long, thin limbs shaking, and tried to reach the controls. She had only seen humans operate ships once, but desperation made her remember a few sequences. She pressed buttons and pulled levers. Sparks flew from the damaged panels. The ship lurched again. She closed her eyes and prayed it would survive the crash. She could feel the baby's small heartbeat against her chest. It was slow and weak. She had to survive. Suddenly, the ship hit a sharp asteroid field. Rocks smashed into the hull, sending debris flying. Lena screamed and covered the baby. A jagged piece of metal tore through the side of the ship. Smoke filled the air. She coughed, choking on the acrid smell. The ship spun wildly, crashing toward a nearby planet. Lena held on tight, bracing for impact. The last thing she remembered before blacking out was the cry of the baby and the roar of metal tearing apart. When Lena woke, she was lying on soft dirt. The ship had crashed, broken into pieces. The baby was still in her arms, crying weakly. She felt pain all over her body, but she forced herself to sit up. She looked around. The landscape was strange, but it reminded her of some of the colonies she had seen in her short life. There were tall rocks, dusty plains, and a pale sky that seemed larger than anything she had known. She did not know where she was. She heard footsteps. Lena froze. Someone was coming. She scanned the area, looking for cover. She saw a small building in the distance and slowly dragged herself toward it. Every step hurt, but she could not stop. The baby whimpered, and she held it closer. The footsteps grew louder. Lena peered around a rock and saw a human man approaching. He had short brown hair and a rugged face. His clothes were torn and he carried a small bag. He looked around carefully, and then his eyes fell on the crashed ship. The man, Ethan, stopped. He looked at the twisted metal, and then he noticed Lena and the baby. His eyes widened. He did not trust aliens, but the girl looked hurt, weak, and scared. He raised his hand slightly and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" Lena flinched. She did not understand his words at first, but she understood his tone. He was not attacking. She stayed low, watching him. The baby cried again. Ethan's eyes softened. He took a careful step closer. "It's all right, little one," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." Lena's heart raced. She did not know if she could trust him. Alien hunters had followed her before, and humans often sided with them. But the man did not look like a soldier. He looked tired, like someone who had seen too much. She made a decision. Slowly, she raised the baby higher, showing she would not fight. Ethan nodded and slowly moved closer, keeping his distance. He crouched a few feet away. "You need help," he said simply. Lena's eyes darted around. There was nowhere to hide, and she was too weak to run. She nodded slightly. Ethan slowly approached and extended a hand, not to grab her, but to show trust. Lena hesitated, then placed the baby gently in his arms. He held the child carefully, his eyes never leaving hers. Lena took a deep breath, her muscles trembling. She followed, limping, moving toward a small cave he had indicated. Inside the cave, Ethan laid the baby on a soft patch of moss. Lena sank to the ground, exhaustion overtaking her. She closed her eyes. Ethan looked at her wounds. He did not speak harshly. He knew words might scare her. Instead, he took out a small medical kit from his bag. He cleaned her cuts and bruises carefully. Lena flinched at first, but she realized he meant no harm. "What is your name?" Ethan asked quietly. Lena did not answer at first. She did not want to tell a human her name, but something in his voice made her trust him. She whispered, "Lena." "I'm Ethan," he said gently. "I'll help you. I promise." Lena looked at him, unsure. She had promised herself never to trust anyone, but she had no choice. She had survived too long to die now. She nodded slightly. The baby cried again. Ethan held the child close and hummed softly. Lena watched him, noticing how careful he was. He spoke softly to the baby, not just to calm it, but as if he cared for it like it was his own. Lena's heart softened a little. Maybe humans were not all cruel. Maybe some could be trusted. They stayed in the cave for the night. Lena was too weak to move. Ethan kept watch. He knew they were not safe. The alien empire would come searching for her, and humans might turn them in if they saw them. He had to be careful. He did not sleep much. He kept glancing at Lena and the baby, making sure they were still breathing. Every sound outside made him tense. Lena woke several times, checking on the baby. She watched Ethan move around the cave, doing small chores, keeping them safe. She began to understand him a little. He was cautious but kind. He was different from the soldiers she had seen. She wanted to trust him, but fear stayed in her chest. She did not know what humans would do if they found out she was an alien. The next day, Ethan brought some water and food he had found nearby. Lena watched him carefully. He offered her some. She took it slowly, testing him. Ethan smiled gently. "We need to stay strong," he said. Lena nodded. She realized he was right. They could not survive if they were afraid all the time. They had to work together. As they prepared to move from the cave, Lena looked at the sky. She had escaped death once, but she knew the danger was not gone. The alien empire would not stop until they found her. She looked at Ethan. He was ready to protect them, but she knew it would not be easy. The baby cooed in her arms, unaware of the danger, trusting only the warmth of her touch. Lena made a silent promise. She would survive, and she would protect this child no matter what. Together, Lena and Ethan left the cave. The landscape stretched wide before them. Rocks, dust, and strange pale light marked the world. It was harsh, but it was safe for now. Lena limped along, feeling the strength return slowly to her legs. Ethan kept watch, guiding her, helping her over rough terrain. The baby slept peacefully, safe for the first time since the crash. As they moved, Lena told Ethan a little of her past. Her voice was soft, almost afraid. She spoke of the experiments, the empire, the loss of her people. Ethan listened quietly, not interrupting. He could see the pain in her eyes. He felt a strange connection to her suffering. Though he had not lived her life, he had lost people too, but different ways. He understood fear and loss. By evening, they reached the remains of an old settlement. It was abandoned, but the buildings could provide shelter. Lena explored cautiously, watching for signs of danger. Ethan followed closely, ready to act. They made a small fire, cooked what food they had, and rested. The baby stayed close to Lena, sleeping safely. For the first time in days, Lena felt a small spark of hope. They were not safe, but they were alive. And as long as they were together, maybe they could survive. The stars appeared in the sky, distant and bright. Lena looked at them, feeling a strange sense of wonder. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unforgiving, but she had survived it once, and now she had Ethan and the baby. Maybe survival was possible after all. She closed her eyes, holding the baby close, and let herself rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight she was not alone. The morning sun rose over the pale landscape, painting the abandoned settlement in soft orange light. Lena sat on a broken wall, holding the baby close. Ethan was nearby, scavenging through a crumbled building for food and supplies. The settlement was empty, quiet, and safe for now, but Lena could feel danger waiting beyond the horizon. Ethan returned with a small bag of dried fruits and water. He handed some to Lena. She ate slowly, still cautious. The baby cooed and reached out with tiny hands, and Lena smiled despite the aches in her body. The small moment of peace made her heart feel lighter, but she knew it would not last. "We should move soon," Ethan said quietly. "We cannot stay here. Someone could find us." Lena nodded. She had learned quickly to trust the man's judgment. He knew survival better than she did. She glanced at the baby and whispered softly, "We will keep moving, little one." As they packed, Lena spoke for the first time about her past. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper against the wind. "My people, we were not free," she said. Ethan listened carefully. Lena continued, "The Empire, they took us. They experimented on us. I escaped. I took the baby from a colony they destroyed." Ethan frowned. He had heard stories of the Empire's cruelty, but seeing it in her eyes made it real. "Why did they want the baby?" he asked. Lena shook her head. "I do not know. Something about its blood, its genes. It is special. They want it, for experiments, or worse." She hugged the baby tighter. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The baby was tiny, fragile, and yet carried a weight that could shape the fate of many. They left the settlement and started moving through rocky plains. Lena's steps were slow, but she forced herself to keep pace. Ethan watched her carefully, offering support when the ground was rough. The baby slept in Lena's arms, unaware of the dangers surrounding them. As they moved, Ethan tried to understand Lena better. He wanted to help, but he also wanted to know how to protect them. "How old are you?" he asked gently. Lena hesitated. 16, she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. She was young, but the hardships she had faced made her seem older. He nodded, keeping his thoughts to himself. It did not matter how old she was. Right now, survival was all that mattered. The first night on the open plains was quiet but tense. They found a small hollow among rocks and made a fire. Lena watched the stars carefully, listening for any unusual sounds. Ethan sat nearby, sharpening a small knife. He had fought before, but never for aliens. Yet something in Lena's eyes and the innocence of the baby made him ready to fight again. "They will come," Lena said softly. Ethan looked at her. "Who will?" "The Empire. Alien hunters," she said. "They track us. They will not stop, not ever." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had fought smugglers, pirates, and raiders, but alien hunters were different. They were precise, cruel, and had technology humans had never seen. He knew that to survive, they had to be smarter, faster, and stronger. The next day, while they were walking through a narrow canyon, Lena stumbled and fell. The baby slipped slightly in her arms, and Lena's heart raced. Ethan caught both of them just in time. He looked into Lena's eyes. "You cannot keep pushing yourself so hard," he said firmly. "If you collapse, we all die." Lena's eyes welled with tears. She was used to surviving alone, but Ethan's concern felt strange, comforting. "I have to keep moving," she whispered. "We have no choice." They continued through the canyon until they found a small stream. Lena bent to let the baby drink some water from a makeshift cup Ethan made. She noticed strange markings on the rocks nearby, signs of alien hunters. Panic gripped her heart. Ethan saw her expression. "We have to move faster," he said. Lena nodded. Together they packed quickly and started moving again, taking hidden paths and avoiding the open plains. The baby remained calm, as if it sensed the trust between the two guardians. As the day passed, Lena opened up more about her past. She told Ethan about the colony where she had grown up, a place filled with light and laughter until the Empire arrived. She described her friends, her teachers, and the small joys that had been destroyed. Ethan listened, understanding the weight of loss. He thought of his own past. He had lost his family in a border war and had run from responsibility ever since. Lena's story made him reflect on the life he had abandoned. By late afternoon, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide valley. Lena paused, her violet eyes scanning the horizon. "They could be anywhere," she said. Ethan crouched beside her, looking through a pair of binoculars he had found in the settlement. The valley was empty, but he knew the emptiness could hide dangers. "We need shelter for the night," Ethan said. "There's a small cluster of ruins down there. It's old, but it will keep us safe from the wind and give us cover." Lena agreed, and they carefully made their way down. The baby remained in Lena's arms, gurgling softly. It was a strange sound in the quiet valley, but it brought a sense of hope. Inside the ruins, they found a corner that was dry and safe. Ethan built a small fire while Lena cleaned their few supplies. They were quiet, both lost in their thoughts. Lena felt a strange bond forming with Ethan. He was different from the humans she had feared. He was kind, careful, and willing to risk himself for her and the baby. As night fell, Lena whispered more of her memories. She spoke of the first time she had seen the Empire's soldiers, how they had killed without mercy, and how she had learned to hide and survive. Ethan listened, his face serious. He realized that this young girl had endured more pain than most adults ever would. Yet she still carried the baby with her, refusing to give up. He felt admiration and a strange sense of responsibility. Suddenly, a sound came from outside. Lena froze. Ethan stood immediately, grabbing his knife. The sound was subtle, just the brush of something moving against the ruins. Lena held the baby close, heart pounding. Ethan crept to the entrance, peeking outside. A group of alien hunters moved through the shadows. They were searching, scanning with small devices that glowed faintly in the dark. Ethan's breath caught. They were close. He backed away silently and whispered to Lena, "Stay down. Don't make a sound." Lena nodded, holding the baby tight. Her small body trembled, but she forced herself to be still. The hunters were ruthless and would kill without warning. Ethan thought quickly. He could not fight them openly. They had numbers and weapons. He needed a plan to escape. He noticed a small tunnel leading away from the ruins, half covered with rocks. He whispered, "We move through that tunnel, quietly and quickly." Lena nodded again. She felt fear, but also trust. She had survived alone, but with Ethan, she had hope. The baby gurgled, sensing the tension, and Lena kissed its soft cheek. They crawled through the tunnel, rocks scraping their hands and arms. The hunters paused near the ruins, scanning carefully, but they did not see the small figures slipping away. Ethan led Lena and the baby through the narrow path, keeping them low and moving steadily. After several tense minutes, they emerged on the other side of the ridge. They stopped to catch their breath. Lena looked at Ethan, eyes wide. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "We are not safe yet. We have to keep moving." Lena nodded, gripping the baby tightly. Together, they started down the slope toward a hidden forest in the valley. As they moved, Ethan explained their plan. They would find an old human outpost that had been abandoned for years. It might have supplies, weapons, or at least shelter. Lena listened, learning quickly. She realized that surviving with humans meant learning from them, trusting them, and working together. The forest was dense, with twisted trees and thick underbrush. Lena and Ethan moved carefully, avoiding any signs of hunters. The baby remained quiet, lulled by the motion and the safety of Lena's arms. The forest gave them cover, but also slowed their progress. Lena felt tired, but she did not complain. She had to keep moving. Survival depended on it. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, night had fallen. They found a small clearing and set up a temporary camp. Lena helped Ethan gather dry leaves for fire. And together they kept the baby warm. The stars shone above, distant and cold, but they offered a small comfort. As Lena watched the baby sleep, she whispered softly, "We will survive. I will protect you." Ethan sat nearby, keeping watch. He thought about the Empire, the hunters, and the dangers ahead, but he also thought about Lena and the baby. They were not just survivors. They were a family now, bound by trust and necessity. The night passed slowly. Every sound of the forest made them tense. Yet when dawn came, Lena felt a spark of determination. They had survived one more night. Together they would face the challenges ahead. Together they would keep moving. Together they would fight to stay alive. And in that moment, Lena realized something important. She was not alone anymore. Ethan had chosen to help her. The baby depended on her, and somehow, despite all the fear, pain, and uncertainty, there was hope. They could survive. They would survive. Lena woke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the trees. The forest was quiet except for the rustle of leaves and the distant calls of unknown creatures. She sat up slowly, her muscles stiff from the previous day's journey. The baby was still asleep in Ethan's arms. Lena smiled faintly. Despite everything, they were alive. Ethan stirred and opened his eyes. He looked at the sky and then at Lena. "We need to move," he said softly. "The hunters will not stop. We have to find a way out of this system." Lena nodded. She helped pack their few supplies and made sure the baby was comfortable in a small carrier Ethan had fashioned from old cloth. Together, they moved through the forest, careful to leave no trail. Hours passed as they trudged through uneven terrain. Lena's limbs ached, but she refused to complain. Every step brought them closer to safety. Ethan kept watch, scanning the skies and listening for the slightest sound of alien ships. Lena learned to read the signs, too. The subtle shifts in wind, the movement of shadows, and the distant hum of engines. Survival meant paying attention to everything. Finally, they reached a small clearing where an old, abandoned human cargo ship rested. Its hull was scratched and worn, but it appeared functional. Ethan's eyes brightened. "This might be our way out," he said. Lena approached cautiously. She had never seen a human ship up close before. The design was strange but practical, built for speed and adaptability. Ethan tested the ship's controls. Surprisingly, the engines responded. Lena watched, fascinated. "Can it fly?" she asked quietly. Ethan smiled faintly. "We'll find out soon," he said. Carefully, he loaded the baby into a secure compartment and helped Lena strap in beside it. The ship shuddered as the engines roared to life. For a moment, Lena felt a thrill she had never experienced before. They were moving, escaping the forest, escaping the hunters. They lifted off and entered space. The stars stretched endlessly around them. Lena pressed her hands to the glass, watching the universe in awe. Ethan glanced at her and smiled. "Hold on tight," he said as he maneuvered through the asteroid field that surrounded the system. Lena gripped the seat, heart pounding, but she felt alive. The thrill of flight, the rush of danger, made her forget, for a moment, the pain and fear. The journey through space was tense. Alien hunters had traced them to the forest, and they would not give up easily. Ethan navigated carefully, weaving between asteroids and using old debris fields as cover. Lena learned quickly, pointing out obstacles and helping him anticipate dangers. The baby remained calm, sensing the safety and focus of its guardians. After hours of careful travel, they reached a quiet system far from the Empire's main routes. Lena finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "We made it," she whispered. Ethan did not respond immediately. He knew danger could appear at any moment. Yet he allowed himself a small sigh of relief. They had escaped for now, but survival in space required constant vigilance. Lena spent time observing the baby. She noticed small, strange behaviors. Sometimes, when she touched the baby's hand, machines would flicker slightly, lights would dim, screens would glitch. Ethan noticed, too. "Do you see that?" he asked, pointing to a control panel that had flickered when Lena brushed the baby's hand against it. Lena nodded. She felt a chill. The baby was special, more than just a human infant. It carried something powerful inside it, something the Empire had wanted to control. "We have to protect it," Lena said firmly. Ethan agreed. "We will. No one touches it while we're alive." Lena felt a strange sense of hope. With Ethan by her side, they could survive. Together, they could protect the baby. They spent the next day traveling through uncharted space, avoiding known trade routes and patrols. Ethan taught Lena about human navigation and tactics. She learned quickly, absorbing every detail. They talked quietly as they worked, sharing small stories to pass the time. Ethan told her about his past, losing his family, running from responsibility, and how he had never expected to fight for anyone else again. Lena listened, feeling a connection to him. They were both survivors, shaped by loss and fear, yet finding courage together. That evening, they entered a dead star system. The planets were barren, the moons shattered, and the asteroids glowed faintly in the star's dim light. Ethan used the shadows of the system to hide the ship. Lena watched the baby sleep, noticing its small hands twitching as if sensing something far away. She wondered what power the baby held and why the Empire had wanted it so badly. Suddenly, alarms blared. Ethan grabbed the controls, scanning the sensors. Alien ships had appeared at the edge of the system. They had tracked them again. Lena's heart raced. Ethan did not hesitate. "Hold on!" he shouted as he pushed the ship into a narrow asteroid field. The enemy ships followed, but their larger size made navigation difficult. Lena helped, pointing out tight gaps and loose rocks. Together they wove through the field, narrowly avoiding collisions. One of the hunters fired a plasma blast. It missed the ship by a hair, hitting an asteroid that exploded into fragments. Lena ducked instinctively, clutching the baby. Ethan steered with precision, his hands steady despite the danger. After several tense minutes, they emerged from the asteroid field. The hunters were behind, but their path was slower. Ethan accelerated, putting distance between them and the pursuers. Lena exhaled shakily, realizing how close they had come to death. "We have to keep moving," Ethan said, glancing at Lena. She nodded, her body tense but determined. The baby cooed softly, and Lena smiled faintly. They could not afford to rest. Every moment in space was a risk. Over the next several days, they traveled through empty systems, avoiding patrols and using old human jump routes that the Empire did not monitor. Lena became more confident in space navigation, learning to anticipate dangers and plan escape routes. Ethan watched her, impressed by her intelligence and adaptability. She was young, but her mind was sharp, and she had the courage to survive. One night, while they rested near a small asteroid base, Lena noticed the baby reacting to the ship's systems again. Lights flickered when it reached out, and small mechanical devices beeped strangely. Ethan observed closely. It's like the baby can sense technology, he said quietly. Lena nodded, feeling both awe and fear. The baby was fragile, yet it carried something powerful, something that could change the balance of power if the Empire captured it. Lena hugged the baby, whispering softly. "We will protect you," she said. Ethan nodded silently. They had survived countless dangers together, and they would survive more. They were hunted, but they were not defeated. Together, they could outsmart anyone, even the Empire. As they prepared to leave the asteroid base, Lena reflected on their journey. She had learned to trust Ethan, to rely on his strength and knowledge. She had learned to survive in a world that wanted her dead, and she had learned to protect the baby. A fragile life with unimaginable importance. She felt a sense of purpose for the first time. Ethan checked the ship one last time before liftoff. "Ready?" he asked. Lena nodded. The baby stirred but remained calm in her arms. Ethan engaged the engines, and the ship lifted from the asteroid base, slipping into the darkness of space. The stars stretched endlessly around them. Lena watched, feeling a mixture of fear, wonder, and determination. They would be hunted again. That was certain. But now, they had learned the ways of survival. They had each other. They had the baby. And for now, that was enough. As the ship sped through the stars, Lena made a silent promise. She would not let the Empire catch them. She would not let harm come to the baby. She would survive, and she would fight alongside Ethan no matter the cost. They were hunted, but they were not helpless. Together, they were strong. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous. But Lena felt ready. She was no longer just a scared alien girl. She was a protector, a survivor, and a fighter. With Ethan and the baby by her side, she believed they could escape the Empire and find a place where they could be safe. And for the first time in a long while, Lena allowed herself to hope. The hidden human settlement lay tucked between rocky hills, its walls made from metal and stone. It was small but sturdy, a place that had survived the harshness of space and isolation. Ethan guided Lena and the baby through a narrow entrance, keeping them low and cautious. The settlement was quiet, almost too quiet, as if it held its breath for intruders. "This place, it is mostly human," Ethan said softly. Lena looked around. The buildings were simple, functional, and practical. Signs of life were minimal, just a few lights and distant figures moving about. She felt a mix of hope and fear. Humans could help them, but humans could also turn them in. She hugged the baby closer, aware that it was still vulnerable, and whispered, "We must be careful." They reached the central area where a few people worked on machinery and small gardens. Ethan called out quietly to gain attention. An older human man with gray hair and a lined face approached. His eyes narrowed at Lena's alien appearance. "Who are you?" he demanded. Ethan stepped forward, shielding Lena slightly. "We need help," he said. "She is hurt, and the baby is innocent. We mean no harm." Lena stayed quiet, her violet eyes scanning the people around her. She felt tension in the air, mistrust and fear. The older man studied them, then sighed. "We don't usually help aliens," he said, shaking his head. "But you're running from something. If you stay outside, you will die." He glanced at the baby. "And I don't see why we should let that happen." Ethan nodded. Lena felt a small relief. At least for now, they were safe. They were given a small shelter in the back of the settlement. Lena laid the baby down, letting it rest in warmth and safety. She watched Ethan as he spoke with the settlers, explaining why they had come without revealing the baby's special nature. She realized quickly that humans were cautious, practical, and suspicious, but capable of kindness if reason outweighed fear. Over the next few days, Lena and Ethan worked alongside the humans, learning their routines and helping where they could. Lena began to notice subtle differences in human behavior, how they planned ahead, how they adapted to changing situations, and how they stood together when necessary. She felt admiration growing for them. One evening, as Lena was helping a woman repair a small generator, she noticed a shimmer in the sky. Alien ships were approaching, their lights cutting through the darkness. Panic spread among the settlers. Lena's heart raced. Ethan grabbed her arm. "They found us," he said. "We have no choice now. We fight or we run." Lena's first instinct was fear, but she shook her head. She had survived so much already. Running had kept her alive before, but now, with Ethan and the baby depending on her, she could not flee. She had to stand. Ethan noticed her determination. He nodded at her, silently acknowledging her choice. Together, they prepared for the attack. The settlers moved quickly, barricading entrances and readying weapons. Lena helped where she could, using her knowledge of alien tactics to predict the enemy's approach. Ethan coordinated with the settlers, making plans to defend the settlement efficiently. The baby slept in the safest room, unaware of the storm approaching. When the alien ships arrived, they opened fire, energy blasts striking the settlement's walls. Lena and Ethan moved swiftly, dodging debris and helping humans protect their homes. Lena realized that humans were clever fighters. They used traps, obstacles, and strategy rather than brute force alone. Ethan led small groups, guiding them to weak points in the attackers' formation. Lena followed, supporting and learning from him. Amid the chaos, Lena saw the baby stirring. She rushed to check, ensuring it was safe. Ethan covered her, fighting off a small group of alien soldiers trying to breach the shelter. Lena watched him, feeling a mix of fear and admiration. He was strong, focused, and willing to risk himself for others. She realized then that humans' strength was not just in their weapons, but in their courage, ingenuity, and willingness to protect what they valued. The battle raged through the night. Alien ships tried to break the settlement's defenses, but humans fought smart. Lena used her knowledge of alien technology to disrupt some of their weapons, causing confusion. Ethan coordinated counterattacks, moving from group to group, ensuring that no one was left unprotected. The settlers, inspired by their determination, fought with renewed energy. At one point, a group of alien soldiers breached the outer wall. Lena and Ethan faced them directly. Lena used her agility to dodge attacks, while Ethan used strategy and quick thinking to outmaneuver the soldiers. They worked together seamlessly, protecting the baby and the settlers. Lena felt a sense of unity she had never known. Humans and aliens, once strangers, now fought side by side for survival. As dawn approached, the alien ships began to retreat. They had underestimated the humans and their new allies. Lena watched them leave, her body exhausted, but her spirit strong. Ethan approached her. "We did it," he said softly. Lena nodded. The settlement was battered, but still standing. Humans and aliens had survived together. The aftermath was quiet but tense. Settlers began to repair damage, tending to the wounded. Lena helped where she could. Her mind focused on the baby's safety. Ethan spoke with the leaders, discussing defenses and future plans. Lena realized that humans were resourceful, adaptable, and resilient. They did not give up easily, and their determination made them stronger than the Empire had imagined. Over the next few days, Lena and Ethan worked to strengthen the settlement. They trained the settlers, taught them basic tactics, and helped prepare for any further attacks. Lena learned quickly, gaining confidence in her abilities and understanding of human behavior. She felt a growing sense of belonging. She was not alone, and together they could face any threat. The baby continued to show unusual reactions to technology. Lights flickered and small devices activated when it was near. Lena and Ethan kept this knowledge secret, aware that if the wrong people discovered it, the baby would be in danger. They realized that protecting the child was not just about physical safety, but also secrecy. One evening, Lena and Ethan stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement. The sun set, casting long shadows across the valley. Lena held the baby in her arms. "We survived," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but we must stay vigilant. The Empire will not give up so easily." Lena felt a mix of fear and determination. They had fought together and they had won, but the war was far from over. As they watched the stars appear, Lena reflected on how far they had come. She had been hunted, alone, and scared. Now she had allies, a safe place for the baby, and a plan. Humans were not perfect, but their courage, intelligence, and willingness to stand together gave her hope. She realized that survival was not just about running. It was about standing, fighting, and protecting what mattered most. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said quietly. Lena looked at him. "We did it together," she replied. The baby cooed as if sensing the bond between them. Lena smiled. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. The next morning, they began repairs on the settlement and reinforced defenses. Lena trained with a few settlers, showing them how to anticipate alien attacks and use guerrilla tactics. Ethan worked on organizing patrols and communication. They were ready for the Empire to return, but they were stronger now. They had learned from each other, and their unity made them a formidable force. Lena spent time watching the baby. She noticed small signs of awareness and intelligence beyond normal infants. The baby responded to sounds, lights, and even subtle gestures. Lena realized that the child might hold the key to understanding or even countering the Empire's technology. She felt a sense of responsibility and purpose. Protecting this child was more than survival. It was hope for the future. As the days passed, the settlement began to feel like home. Humans and Lena worked together, learning from each other, sharing knowledge and skills. Lena realized that humans' greatest strength was their adaptability and determination to protect each other. She felt proud to be part of their efforts. Then one night, scouts reported movement on the horizon. The Empire had returned, more organized and determined. Lena and Ethan knew that the next battle would be harder. But they were ready. They had learned to trust each other, to fight together, and to protect the baby at all costs. Lena hugged the child tightly, whispering, "We will not run this time. We will stand." Ethan nodded beside her. Together they prepared for the coming fight, knowing that their courage and unity could overcome even the most powerful enemies. For the first time, Lena felt hope, not just for survival, but for the possibility of a future where humans and aliens could stand together. They had faced fear, danger, and loss, and they had emerged stronger. The Empire might be powerful, but it had underestimated the strength that came from trust, courage, and the determination to protect life. As dawn approached, the settlement was quiet but alert. Lena, Ethan, and the baby rested briefly, knowing that soon the battle would begin. But they were ready. They would not run. They would stand, fight, and protect each other. And in that unity, they found strength that no empire could destroy. The stars above glimmered, silent witnesses to their resolve. Lena felt the baby stir in her arms and smiled. The journey was far from over, but together they had discovered the most important truth. Survival was not just about escaping. It was about standing, fighting, and defending what mattered most. And for the first time, Lena believed that they could win. The morning light spread slowly over the settlement. Smoke from the previous battle still lingered in the valleys. Lena stood on a ridge, holding the baby close. Ethan was nearby, checking weapons and coordinating the humans. The Empire had returned, more determined than before, but this time, Lena and Ethan were ready. "They will not take the baby," Lena whispered to herself. Ethan glanced at her. "We'll stop them," he said firmly. Lena nodded. The baby cooed softly, sensing the calm and resolve of its guardians. Lena smiled faintly. For the first time, she truly believed they could win. As the Empire's ships appeared over the horizon, the settlement came alive with movement. Humans took positions along the walls, armed with rifles and makeshift weapons. Lena helped where she could, using her agility to scout and disrupt the alien forces. Ethan coordinated attacks, calling out instructions and strategies. Together, humans and Lena formed a united front, ready to defend the settlement and the baby. The first wave of attacks hit hard. Alien soldiers fired plasma weapons, cutting through barriers and causing small explosions. Lena dodged swiftly, using her small size to move quickly between obstacles. She threw improvised grenades and disrupted energy panels, slowing the attackers. Ethan led a counterattack, moving from group to group, inspiring the settlers to hold their ground. Amid the chaos, Lena realized the baby was reacting again. Small devices flickered, screens glitched, and lights blinked when it moved. Lena understood that the child had some kind of connection to technology, perhaps a power the Empire could not control. She hugged the baby tighter. It was fragile, but it was also a symbol of hope. The battle raged through the day. Alien soldiers attempted to breach the inner walls, but Lena and Ethan coordinated traps and ambushes. Humans moved with precision, using tactics that the Empire had not expected. Lena learned quickly, adjusting her actions to complement the humans' strategies. Together, they were stronger than any individual, even against a superior enemy. At one point, a group of alien soldiers cornered Lena near the central compound. She moved swiftly, using her small size and agility to avoid attacks. She led them into a narrow corridor where humans had set traps. The soldiers were caught and defeated, and Lena rejoined Ethan. He gave her a small nod of approval. Together, they had turned the tide of the battle. As evening approached, the Empire's forces began to retreat. They had underestimated the humans' ingenuity and Lena's courage. The settlement had survived, and the baby remained safe. Lena stood on a wall, watching the last of the ships leave. Ethan joined her, his face covered in soot and sweat, but with a faint smile. "We did it," Lena said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but it's only the beginning. The Empire will return if we let them." Lena understood. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Yet now she felt hope. They had learned, adapted, and survived together. The Empire had underestimated the strength that came from unity and courage. Over the next few days, the settlement repaired damage and fortified defenses. Lena trained with the humans, teaching them ways to anticipate alien tactics and use guerrilla strategies. Ethan organized patrols and supply runs, ensuring that the settlement was prepared for future attacks. Lena felt a sense of pride and belonging. She had found allies and friends, and together they could face any danger. The baby continued to show unusual signs. Its small hands seemed to react to technology. Lights flickered when it moved, and small devices activated unexpectedly. Lena and Ethan realized that the child could be the key to understanding the Empire's technology and defending against future attacks. Protecting the baby was not just survival. It was hope for the future. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, Lena and Ethan stood together, watching the settlement bustle with activity. Humans repaired walls, tended gardens, and trained for defense. Lena held the baby, who cooed softly. She felt a sense of peace and purpose she had never known. They had survived, and they had built something stronger than fear. "We have a chance to make things better," Ethan said quietly. Lena looked at him. "Yes," she replied. "We can protect the baby, and maybe we can protect others too." Ethan nodded. Together, they had discovered that survival was not just about running or hiding. It was about standing, fighting, and protecting what mattered most. As weeks passed, the settlement became a place of hope. Humans and Lena worked side by side, learning from each other and strengthening their defenses. Lena realized that humans' greatest strength was not their weapons, but their courage, intelligence, and willingness to protect each other. She felt proud to be part of their efforts. The baby grew stronger each day. Lena watched as it began to respond more deliberately to its surroundings. It could influence small technology, react to danger, and even communicate subtle cues through gestures. Lena understood that this child was special, a bridge between humans and aliens, and perhaps a key to ending the Empire's dominance. Then one day, scouts reported activity at the edge of the system. The Empire was gathering forces again, but Lena and Ethan were ready. Humans prepared defenses, and Lena trained alongside them, confident and determined. They had learned from previous attacks and had become stronger together. The Empire could not surprise them now. When the alien forces arrived, they were met with resistance stronger than they expected. Humans and Lena fought strategically, using traps, ambushes, and knowledge of the terrain. Ethan led counterattacks, moving swiftly and decisively. Lena moved with agility and skill, protecting the baby and assisting the humans. The Empire's forces were pushed back, unable to break through. Amid the battle, Lena noticed the baby reacting again. It reached out toward an alien device, causing it to shut down. The alien soldiers panicked, unsure how the infant had disrupted their technology. Lena realized that the baby's abilities could change the balance of power. With careful guidance, they could use this to protect the settlement and humanity. As the battle ended, the Empire retreated once more. The humans had won, not with superior numbers or weapons, but with courage, strategy, and unity. Lena and Ethan stood together, holding the baby, watching the stars. They had survived countless dangers, and now they had proven that humans and aliens could stand together against even the most powerful enemies. In the weeks that followed, Lena and Ethan helped the settlement grow stronger. Humans repaired buildings, trained for defense, and learned from Lena's knowledge of alien tactics. The baby thrived, growing stronger and showing increasing control over its unusual abilities. Lena felt a sense of hope for the future, a future where humans and aliens could coexist and defend each other. One night, as Lena held the baby, she whispered, "We have survived so much. We can face anything now." Ethan stood beside her, watching the settlement glow in the moonlight. "We will face it together," he said. Lena nodded. Together they had found strength, courage, and purpose. The Empire had been pushed back, but more importantly, they had built a home, a family, and hope. The stars above were bright, distant, and endless. Lena looked at them and felt a sense of wonder. The universe was vast and dangerous, but they had proven that survival was possible. Humans, aliens, and the baby had found a bond that could withstand any threat. Lena felt pride in their unity, in the courage they had discovered in each other, and in the hope they had created for the future. Over time, the settlement became a symbol of resilience. Travelers, refugees, and survivors began to seek shelter there, inspired by the courage of those who had stood against the Empire. Lena and Ethan guided them, teaching them how to survive, how to defend themselves, and how to protect the baby. The child became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, life and courage could prevail. Lena reflected on their journey, from the crash on a distant planet, to fleeing hunters, to surviving in the forest, to escaping across the stars, and finally standing against the Empire. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident. She had learned that survival was not just about escaping danger, but about standing, fighting, and protecting those who could not protect themselves. Ethan, once a man running from his past, had found purpose again. He had discovered courage in the face of danger and learned to trust and fight for something greater than himself. Together, He and Lena had built a bond of trust and friendship, a bond that had saved the baby and the settlement. The baby cooed, reaching up to Lena. She smiled and kissed its small forehead. "We will keep you safe," she whispered. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will," he said. Together, they were a family. Together, they were a force that the Empire could not break. As the sun rose over the valley, Lena, Ethan, and the baby stood together on the ridge, looking out at the settlement below. Life was hard. The universe was dangerous. But for the first time, Lena felt hope that they could build a true future. Humans and aliens, once enemies, had found strength in unity. They had survived, fought, and reclaimed their lives. And in that moment, Lena realized something powerful. The past could not control them anymore. They had chosen to stand, to fight, and to protect. They had survived together, and now they could shape the future. The stars above promised endless possibilities. Lena hugged the baby tightly, holding both hope and determination in her heart. Ethan stood beside her, steady and strong. Together they would face whatever came next. The Empire could not defeat them. They had survived. They had fought. They had won. And in that victory, they had found something greater than survival. They had found home, courage, and hope. Lena smiled, looking at Ethan and the baby. The journey had been long and dangerous, but it had led them here, to a future reclaimed, a life worth protecting, and a family bound by trust, love, and the will to survive. For the first time, Lena believed that no matter what the universe threw at them, they could face it. Together. And that was enough.